Captain Kim Tae-ho felt the familiar rush of adrenaline as his cargo ship's engines powered down in Lunar Station's docking bay. The massive space station hung like a glittering jewel against the backdrop of Earth's moon. Its rotating sections, creating artificial gravity for the thousands of workers who called it home. Tae-ho had just returned from a 3-week haul to the mining colonies of Kepler-Tibi. His ship's cargo hold now empty, but his credit account significantly fuller. The pilot's lounge was calling his name, after weeks of recycled air and protein. Buzz, he craved real food and the company of fellow spacers. But first, he needed to file his flight report and grab his personal effects from the ship. Taking a shortcut through the maintenance levels would save him 20 minutes of walking through the crowded commercial sectors. The corridors down here were different from the polished upper decks where passengers and VIPs walked. These were working spaces filled with the hum of machinery and the occasional spark from welding torches. Pipes and conduits ran along the walls like mechanical veins, carrying power and atmosphere to every corner of the station. The lighting was dimmer here, more functional than comfortable. Tae-ho's boots echoed on the metal grating as he walked, his pilot's uniform crisp despite the long journey. He took pride in his appearance, in the gold stripes on his sleeves that marked him as a senior captain. In space, rank and appearance mattered. They told people who you were, what you could do, and how much respect you deserved. That's when he saw the figure hunched over a console in the restricted alien technology bay. The area was clearly marked, with warning signs in multiple languages, including the flowing script of the Viridian Empire. Red lights blinked steadily, indicating active alien technology that could be dangerous if mishandled. Only certified technicians with the highest clearances were supposed to be in there. And yet, there was someone in Janitor's coveralls, apparently, cleaning equipment worth more than most people's annual salaries. "Hey, you there?" Tae-ho's voice boomed through the corridor, startling the figure. The man looked up, and Tae-ho saw a middle-aged face with intelligent eyes and hands that showed years of honest work. But all Tae-ho saw was the uniform, the simple grey coveralls that marked him as maintenance staff, the lowest rung on the station's hierarchy. "What are you doing in this sector? This area is off limits." Tae-ho strode forward, his chest puffed out with authority. He had caught someone where they didn't belong, and it felt good to be the one enforcing the rules. The janitor Lee Changmin. Though Tae-ho didn't know his name yet, slowly straightened up from the alien console he had been working on. The device was beautiful in its complexity, with crystalline interfaces that pulsed with soft blue light. Viridian technology was known throughout the galaxy for its elegance and power, integrating quantum mechanics with biological processes in ways that human science was still trying to understand. "I have clearance, sir," Changmin said quietly, his voice carrying no trace of anger or defensiveness. "I'm performing scheduled maintenance on the Viridian quantum processors. They require specialized cleaning protocols to maintain their efficiency." Tae-ho's eyes narrowed. The audacity of this man was incredible. Did he really think a simple janitor could fool an experienced spacer like himself? A janitor working on alien tech worth millions of credits? "I don't think so, buddy." Changmin's face remained calm, though something flickered in his eyes. "Sir, these systems require daily maintenance. The quantum matrices can destabilize if biological contaminants interfere with their resonance patterns. The cleaning process isn't just about removing dirt, it involves recalibrating the harmonic frequencies to ensure optimal performance." The technical language only made Tae-ho more suspicious. Clearly, this man had rehearsed some fancy words to try to sound legitimate. But Tae-ho had been around the galaxy enough times to know a con when he saw one. "Nice try," Tae-ho said, pulling out his communicator. "But I wasn't born yesterday. Security. This is Captain Kim Tae-ho, pilot identification 77 Alpha 9. I've got an unauthorized individual in Sector 7, near the alien tech bay. Send a team immediately. Changman's shoulders sagged slightly, but he didn't panic. Instead, he reached slowly for the ID badge clipped to his coveralls. Sir, if you'll just look at my credentials, you'll see that I'm authorized to be here. My clearance level is... Save it. Taiho interrupted, his prejudice building like a wall between him and reason. I know trouble when I see it, and you've got guilty written all over you. What were you really doing? Trying to steal alien technology, planning to sell it to the highest bidder? Changman's hand dropped to his side, still holding the badge that would have cleared up everything. I understand your concern, Captain. Security is important, but I assure you, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The sound of boots on metal announced the arrival of the security team. 3 officers in black uniforms came round the corner, their hands resting on their stun weapons. The team leader, Sergeant Park Min-woo, looked from Taiho to Changmin with professional assessment. What's the situation, Captain? Min-woo asked. Tai-Ho pointed dramatically at Changmin. Found this guy messing round with the alien tech. Claims he's authorized. But come on, look at him. He's obviously trying to steal something valuable. Min-woo turned to Changmin. Sir, can you show us your identification and clearance documents? Changmin held up his badge, but Taiho stepped forward. Don't let him fool you with some fake ID. I've seen scammers before. They make convincing forgeries these days. The security officers exchanged glances. They had procedures to follow, and the senior pilot's word carried weight. Despite Changman's calm demeanor and the legitimate-looking badge, they had to err on the side of caution. Sir, we'll need you to come with us for verification, Min-woo said to Changmin. Standard procedure. Changmin nodded without resistance. I understand. You're doing your job. As the officers prepared to escort him away, Changmin looked directly at Taiho. There was no anger in his eyes, no hatred or desire for revenge. Instead, there was something worse: disappointment, the look of a man who had seen this kind of prejudice before and had hoped, perhaps foolishly, that humanity had moved beyond it. Captain, Changmin said softly as the security team flanked him, I hope someday you'll understand that appearances can be deceiving. The galaxy is full of wonders. But we miss them when we only see what we expect to see. As they led Changmin away, Taiho felt a moment of doubt, but he quickly pushed it aside. He had done the right thing. He had protected valuable alien technology from a potential thief. The station was safer because of his actions. What Captain Kim Taiho didn't know, couldn't have known because his prejudice had blinded him to the truth. With that, Dr. Lee Changmin held 3 advanced degrees in xenotechnology from the prestigious Martian Institute of Technology. His doctoral dissertation on quantum biological interfaces had been translated into 17 languages and was considered required reading for anyone working with alien technology. Changmin had taken the night maintenance job not because he needed the money, but because he needed access. The Viridian quantum processors were living machines, and to truly understand them, he needed to observe their daily rhythms, their subtle changes, their responses to different stimuli. No amount of theoretical knowledge could replace hands-on experience with technology that existed at the intersection of physics and biology. The coveralls weren't a disguise, they were a necessity. Working with quantum biological systems required direct contact, and Changmin's specially designed uniform contained sensors that allowed him to monitor the machine's health while he worked. His research was advancing human understanding of alien technology by decades, but it required him to get his hands dirty in ways that most scientists never would. As the security team disappeared round the corner with Changmin, Taiho straightened his uniform and continued toward the pilots. Lounge, he had a story to tell his fellow pilots, a tale of heroism and vigilance that would earn him drinks and admiration. He had no idea that his actions had just set in motion a chain of events that would change his life forever. The alien technology hummed softly behind him, its quantum processors already beginning to show signs of instability without Changman's expert care. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Tonight, Captain Kim Tae-ho was a hero in his own mind, and that was all that mattered to him. The pilot's lounge buzzed with morning activity as Captain Kim Tae-ho settled into his favorite chair near the massive viewport. Outside, the endless dance of space continued, cargo ships docking, passenger liners departing for distant worlds, and the occasional military patrol vessel making its rounds. The synthetic coffee tasted bitter, but Tae-ho barely noticed. He was too busy savoring the memory of his heroic actions from the night before. "Listen to this," Tae-ho announced to the other pilots gathered round the table. Captain Han Min-soo looked up from his flight manifest, while Captain Lee Jin-woo paused mid-bite of his breakfast protein bar last night. "I caught this guy red-handed." The other pilots stopped what they were doing. Stories of attempted theft or sabotage were always serious business in their line of work. One damaged quantum processor could strand thousands of people in deep space. You should have seen. This character, Tae-ho continued, warming to his story, wearing janitor coveralls, trying to convince me he belonged near 1,000,000 credit Viridian quantum processors. Can you believe the nerve? As if I'd fall for that obvious scam. He took a long sip of his coffee. Enjoying the attention, the guy even had some fake technical babble ready. Started spouting nonsense about quantum matrices and harmonic frequencies, like he'd memorized some textbook to sound smart. Captain Min-soo shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Did you check his ID badge?" "Oh, he had some fake credentials." Tae-ho waved dismissively. "These criminals are getting more sophisticated these days, but you can't fool someone with my experience. I've been flying between star systems since before half these rookies even left their home planets." Captain Jin-woo frowned. What happened? To him, security hauled him away for questioning. Tae-ho said proudly, "Probably sitting in a holding cell right now." Wondering how he got caught by Captain Kim Tae-ho. "The station's safer because of what I did." The uncomfortable silence that followed should have been his first warning. Captain Min-soo and Captain Jin-woo exchanged glances that Tae-ho completely missed. They both knew about Dr. Lee Changman's work with alien technology, but Tae-ho was too caught up in his own version of events to notice their reactions. "I mean, come on." Tae-ho continued, oblivious to the tension. "A janitor working on alien tech. What's next? Letting kitchen staff pilot starships. There's a reason we have ranks and clearances. You can't just let anyone near equipment that could blow up half the station." Captain Min-soo quietly finished his breakfast and excused himself from the table. Captain Jin-woo followed shortly after, leaving Tae-ho alone with his coffee and his self-congratulations. Meanwhile, across the vast emptiness of space, on the blue-green world that had birthed humanity's dreams of the stars, Admiral Park Dong-wook sat in his new office overlooking the spaceport in Geneva. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see the launch pads where humanity's most advanced starships prepared for their journeys to distant worlds. The confirmation ceremony had been held just hours earlier. Presidents, prime ministers, and representatives from a dozen alien species had gathered to witness his appointment as head of the Federal Aviation Authority's Interstellar Division. It was the culmination of a lifetime of service that had begun as a young pilot fighting in the border wars against the hegemony raiders. Admiral Dong-wook's office reflected his distinguished career. The walls displayed commendations from 3 different governments, photos of him shaking hands with alien dignitaries, and a collection of star charts showing the routes he had helped establish during humanity's expansion into the galaxy. His desk, carved from genuine earth oak, seemed almost primitive compared to the holographic displays that floated round it. But today, instead of celebrating his promotion, Dongwook was buried in paperwork, incident reports from stations across human space demanded his attention. Most were routine minor equipment failures, scheduling conflicts, the occasional smuggler caught at customs. But one report made him pause. The namely Changmin jumped out at him from the digital display. Dongwook's jaw tightened as he read the details. His nephew, the brilliant young man who had turned down lucrative positions with major corporations to pursue his research into alien technology, had been detained for 4 hours at Luna Station. The report painted a picture that made Dongwook's blood boil. Changmin had been working his usual night shift, maintaining the critical Viridian quantum processes that kept Luna Station operational. A pilot had reported him as suspicious, leading to his detention despite having proper clearance. The reporting officer's name glowed on the screen. Captain Kim Tai-Ho.Dong-WOO leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. He remembered Changmin as a child, always taking apart electronic devices to see how they worked. Even then, the boy had shown an incredible aptitude for understanding complex systems. When humanity made first contact with the Centauri Alliance, Changmin had been among the first scientists to successfully interface human computers with alien technology. The irony was painful. Changmin had helped design the very systems that now powered humanity's expansion into the galaxy. His work had made it possible for ships to travel faster and farther than ever before. And now, he was being treated like a common criminal because of his job title and appearance. Dongwook pulled up Captain Kim Tai-Ho's service record. The man had a decent flying record. Nothing spectacular, but no major incidents. He flew cargo, runs and passenger routes, the kind of steady work that kept the space lanes functioning. But his performance evaluations revealed a pattern of arrogance and prejudice that his superiors had overlooked. The Admiral's fingers drummed against his desk as he considered his options. He could have Tai-Ho's pilot's license revoked immediately. One call would end the man's career and send a clear message about discrimination. But Dongwook had learned through decades of command that sometimes the best lessons came through experience rather than punishment. He opened a communication channel to Luna Station's Flight Operations Center. "This is Admiral Park. Dongwook, FAA Interstellar Division. I need to speak with your duty officer about reassigning flight schedules back at Luna Station." Captain Kim Tai-Ho was having the worst week of his career. His next assignment had been cancelled without explanation. The lucrative passenger run to the luxury resorts of Kepler 186F had been given to another pilot. Instead, he found himself hauling industrial equipment to a mining asteroid in the middle of nowhere. The mining station was a grim place, carved out of solid rock and populated by rough men and women who spent their lives extracting rare metals from the asteroid's core. The accommodations were basic. The food was terrible. And the company was even worse. Tai-Ho spent 3 days loading heavy machinery and listening to miners complain about their working conditions. When he returned to Luna Station, he expected to find his schedule back to normal. Instead, he was assigned another cargo run, this time to a research station studying gas giant atmospheres. The pay was a fraction of what he usually earned, and the work was mind-numbingly boring. "What's going on?" he asked Captain Minsu when they crossed paths in the corridor. "Why am I getting all these garbage assignments?" Minsu looked uncomfortable. "I don't know, Tai-Ho. Maybe it's just bad luck." But Tai-Ho knew it wasn't luck. Someone was deliberately reassigning his flights, giving him the worst routes while other pilots got the premium jobs. His income was dropping. His reputation was suffering, and he couldn't figure out why. The answer came during his next briefing with flight operations. The duty officer, Lieutenant Park So-young, handed him his assignment with barely concealed disgust. Supply run to mining station Alpha 7. She said coldly, departure in 6 hours. Another mining station. Tao protested. I've been flying. Nothing but cargo runs for 2 weeks. What about the diplomatic mission to the Andromedan embassy? That's supposed to be my route. Lieutenant Park's expression hardened. Captain Lee Jinwoo has been assigned to that mission. He has better qualifications for diplomatic work. Better qualifications. I've been flying longer than he has. Flying ability isn't the only qualification we consider, she replied. Diplomatic missions require pilots who can represent humanity positively, who can interact with alien species without prejudice. The word hit Taiho like a physical blow. Suddenly, everything became clear. Someone knew about the incident with the janitor. Someone with enough influence to rule, and his career was making sure he paid the price for his actions. As he walked to his ship, Taiho's mind raced. Who could have this kind of power? The station commander, someone in the FAA hierarchy, or maybe the janitor himself had connections he didn't know about. The truth was worse than he could have imagined. In his arrogance and prejudice, Captain Kim Tae-ho had made an enemy of one of the most powerful men in human space, and he didn't even know it yet. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Federal Aviation Authority's headquarters buzzed with anticipation. As delegates from across the galaxy took their seats, representatives from the crystalline Viridian Empire sat beside the towering, insectoid Zephyrians, while the ethereal Andromedans floated in their specialized atmospheric chambers. This was history in the making. The first time an interstellar organization would be led by someone who had earned the respect of every major species in the galaxy. Admiral Park Dong-wook stepped up to the podium, his dress uniform gleaming with medals earned through decades of service. The hall fell silent as he began to speak, his voice carrying clearly through the universal translators that allowed dozens of species to communicate. 20 years ago, when humanity first ventured beyond our solar system, we were seen as newcomers, perhaps even primitives by the established galactic powers. He began. Today, we stand as equals, not because we do. The Andromedan ambassador, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering field, pulsed with approval. Admiral Dong-wook had been instrumental in negotiating the trade agreements that had brought prosperity to both species. His ability to understand alien perspectives while defending human interests had made him a legend in diplomatic circles. My first priority as head of the Interstellar Division will be to ensure that every being, regardless of species or occupation, is treated with dignity and respect. Dong-wook continued. The future of galactic civilization depends on our ability to work together, to see beyond surface appearances and recognize the potential in every individual. As the ceremony concluded with thunderous applause from multiple species, Dong-wook's thoughts were already turning to the challenges ahead. The galaxy was vast, and humanity's role in it was still being defined. But first, he had some housekeeping to attend to. The first week of his new position was a whirlwind of activity. Admiral Dong-wook met with department heads, reviewed policies, and began implementing the changes he had planned during his confirmation hearings. The FAA's old guard was initially resistant to his reforms, but his reputation and the backing of the Galactic Council gave him the authority he needed, effective immediately. He announced during a staff meeting, all FAA personnel will undergo mandatory cultural sensitivity training. This includes interaction protocols with alien species, recognition of unconscious bias, and proper procedures for verifying credentials before taking action. The room stirred with murmurs. Some welcomed the changes, having seen too many incidents caused by prejudice and misunderstanding. Others grumbled about additional paperwork and training requirements. Furthermore, Dongwook continued, "We are establishing a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination based on appearance, job title, or species origin. Any personnel found guilty of discriminatory behavior will face immediate suspension pending investigation." He pulled up a holographic display showing incident reports from stations across human space. "These statistics are unacceptable. Last month alone, we had 37 reports of discrimination, including several cases where qualified individuals were detained or harassed based solely on their appearance." The Admiral's eyes hardened as he thought of his nephew, Chengmin, had dedicated his life to advancing human understanding of alien technology, only to be treated like a criminal because he wore Janitor's coveralls instead of a scientist's lab coat. "The universe is watching us," Dongwook said firmly. "How we treat our own people reflects on all of humanity. We cannot claim to be a civilized species while allowing prejudice to guide our actions." Meanwhile, at Luna Station, Captain Kim Tae-ho was experiencing the worst month of his career. His latest assignment had been a disaster from start to finish. The cargo ship's artificial gravity had malfunctioned during a routine supply run to the outer rim, leaving him and his crew floating helplessly while trying to secure 200 tons of mining equipment. And the repair bill had eaten into his profits, and the delay had cost him a lucrative follow-up contract. To make matters worse, his next assignment was another low-paying cargo run to a research station studying hostile alien parasites. The thought of spending 3 weeks near creatures that could dissolve human flesh in minutes made his skin crawl. "This is insane," he muttered to himself as he reviewed the manifest. "I'm a senior captain with 15 years of experience. I should be flying diplomatic missions, not hauling scientific specimens to nightmare worlds." His answer came during a chance encounter in the station's mess hall. Captain Min-soo, who had been avoiding him for weeks, finally approached his table. Min-soo's expression was a mixture of pity and frustration. "We need to talk," Min-soo said quietly, glancing round to make sure they weren't overheard. Tae-ho looked up from his synthetic steak, hope flickering in his eyes. "Finally, Min-soo, you've got to help me figure out what's going on. Someone's sabotaging my career, and I don't know who or why." Min-soo sat down heavily, his shoulders sagging. "You really don't know, do you? After all this time, you still don't understand what you've done." "What I've done?" Tae-ho's voice rose. "I caught a thief trying to steal alien technology. I protected station property. I should be getting commendations, not punishment. That thief you reported," Min-soo said slowly, "was Dr. Lee Changmin. He's one of the top xenotechnology experts in the galaxy. His research on quantum biological interfaces has revolutionized space travel. The faster-than-light engines on your own ship use systems he helped design." Tae-ho stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible. He was just a janitor. I saw him cleaning equipment. He took that job to get hands-on experience with the alien systems," Min-soo explained patiently. "You can't understand living technology from behind a desk. He needed to work with the machines directly, to study their patterns and behaviors. Everyone on the station knew about his research except you." The color began to drain from Tae-ho's face as the implications hit him. But he was wearing coveralls. He looked like what?" Min-soo's voice turned sharp. "Like someone who didn't deserve respect because of his job title. Changmin has 3 doctorate degrees and has published papers in every major scientific journal in human space. But because he was wearing work clothes, you assumed he was a criminal. Taiho's hands trembled as he reached for his coffee cup. Even if that's true, it doesn't explain why my career is being destroyed. One incident shouldn't. One incident. Minsu interrupted. You had an innocent man detained for 4 hours. You ignored his credentials, refused to listen to his explanations, and treated him like garbage because of your prejudices. And you want to know the best part? Minsu leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. The new head of the FAA Interstellar Division is Admiral Park Dong-wook. He's Changman's. Uncle, the coffee cup slipped from Taiho's nerveless fingers, shattering on the floor. The noise seemed impossibly loud in the suddenly silent mess hall. Other diners turned to stare, but Taiho barely noticed. His world was crumbling round him. Admiral Park Dong-wook, he whispered. The hero of the Centauri negotiations, the man who saved humanity from the hegemony raids. He's Changman's uncle. Minsu nodded grimly. And right now, you're being investigated for discrimination. The Admiral has made it clear that prejudice and bias have no place in the FAA. Your flight assignments aren't punishment, they're a test. You're being given a chance to prove that you can change, that you can learn from your mistakes. Taiho's mind raced as he processed this information. Suddenly, everything made sense. The sudden change in his assignments, the cold treatment from station personnel, the way other pilots had been avoiding him. Word had spread through the space lanes that Captain Kim Taiho was under investigation by the most powerful man in human space. What happens now? He asked, his voice barely audible. Minsu's expression softened slightly. That depends on you. Admiral Park isn't a vindictive man. He's giving you a chance to prove that you can be better than your prejudices. But if you keep making the same mistakes, if you refuse to learn and grow, then your career in space is over. As Minsu walked away, Taiho sat alone at his table, staring at the shattered coffee cup. The mess hall's artificial gravity pulled the ceramic fragments toward the floor, just as his own actions had pulled his career into ruins for the first time in his life. Captain Kim Taiho was forced to confront the ugly truth about himself. He had always believed that his rank and experience made him superior to others. He had judged people by their appearance, their job titles, their species. And now, faced with the consequences of his actions, he realized that the real criminal in this story wasn't the innocent man he had falsely accused. It was himself. The Admiral's office felt like a courtroom as Captain Kim Taiho stood at attention before the massive desk. Through the viewport behind Admiral Park Dong-wook, Earth's blue surface rotated slowly, reminding Taiho of everything he stood to lose. His hands trembled slightly as he waited for his fate to be decided. Admiral Dong-wook studied the man before him with the calculating gaze of someone who had negotiated with alien warlords and survived 3 different wars. Taiho's service record floated in a holographic display. 15 years of adequate but unremarkable performance, punctuated by the incident that had brought him to this moment. Captain Kim. The Admiral began, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. You have been found guilty of discrimination against a fellow human being. Your actions violated not only FAA regulations, but the basic principles of human decency. Taiho's throat felt dry as sand. Sir, you will speak when spoken to. Dong-wook interrupted sharply. For the past month, you have been flying cargo, runs to give you time to reflect on your actions, based on your performance reports. You have learned nothing from this experience. The Admiral stood and walked to the viewport, his hands clasped behind his back. Do you know what separates us from the savage species we've encountered in the galaxy? Captain, it's not our technology. The hegemony had better weapons than us when they first attacked. It's not our... He turned back to face Taiho, What makes us worthy of respect among the galactic powers is our ability to recognize potential in others, regardless of their appearance or station. You failed that test spectacularly. Taiho's career flashed. Before his eyes, the Academy, his first solo flight, the pride in his parents' faces when he earned his captain's stripes. All of it was about to be destroyed because of one moment of prejudice. However, the Admiral continued, I believe in second chances, not because you deserve one, but because humanity needs every capable person in the fight ahead. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, and we cannot afford to waste talent, even talent clouded by ignorance. His spark of hope flickered. In Taiho's chest, you will undergo extensive retraining. Donwalk announced, starting tomorrow. You will report to Dr. Lee Changmin every morning at 0600 hours. You will work directly under his supervision, learning about the alien technologies that keep our fleet operational. Taiho's eyes widened. Sir, I don't understand. Why would Dr. Lee want to work with me after what I did? Because, Captain, unlike you, he understands that people can change. He also understands that your ignorance about his work is shared by many others in the fleet. By teaching you, he hopes to prevent similar incidents in the future. The Admiral moved to his desk and activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a starship's quantum drive. You will learn what Dr. Lee actually does. You will understand why his work is critical to human survival. And maybe, just maybe, you will realize why judging people by their appearance is not just wrong, it's dangerous. Taiho stared at the complex diagrams floating before him. Sir, I'm not a scientist. I don't have the education to understand. That's exactly the point. Dongwook cut him off. You assumed you knew everything about a man based on his coveralls. Now you'll discover just how much you don't know. The next morning, Taiho stood outside the alien technology lab, his stomach churning with anxiety. Through the reinforced windows, he could see Changmin working on a massive quantum processor, its crystalline structure pulsing within a light. The man wore the same grey coveralls that had triggered Taiho's prejudice, but now they seemed like armor, the practical clothing of someone who worked with dangerous, living technology. Taking a deep breath, Taiho entered the lab. Changmin looked up from his work, and for a moment, their eyes met. Taiho expected anger, resentment, perhaps even hatred instead. He saw something far more unsettling: disappointment mixed with genuine concern. Captain Kim, Changmin said quietly, setting down his tools. Thank you for coming. Taiho had prepared a speech, an apology filled with formal language and military protocol. But faced with Changmin's unexpected kindness, the words died in his throat. I'm sorry. He managed to say, I was wrong about you, about everything. Changmin nodded slowly. We all make mistakes, Captain. The question is whether we learn from them. He gestured to the quantum processor. This is what I do. This is why I wear these coveralls and work with my hands. Would you like to understand? Over the following weeks, Taiho's worldview crumbled and rebuilt itself piece by piece. He learned that the Viridian quantum processors were not just machines, they were living entities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They required constant care and attention, like caring for a garden that grew in spaces human minds could barely comprehend. Watch the resonance patterns. Changmin explained as they worked on a malfunctioning drive core. The massive device hummed with power that could tear apart planets. But Changmin handled it with the gentle touch of a surgeon. The quantum matrices are based on biological processes from the Viridian homeworld. They respond to emotional states, to the intentions of the people working with them. Taiho stared at the readouts in amazement. You mean they can sense our feelings? In a way, yes, That's why I wear these coveralls instead of a lab coat. The processors have learned to associate formal scientific gear with cold, analytical treatment. But work clothes signal that I'm here to help, to care for them like a gardener tends to plants, as days turned into weeks. Taiho discovered that Changman's expertise was beyond anything he had imagined. The man who had appeared to be just. A janitor had designed critical systems that kept their ships from being torn apart by quantum fluctuations during faster-than-light travel. His hands, which Taiho had dismissed as those of a simple labor, could perform adjustments so precise that they measured quantum states at the subatomic level. I need to get my hands dirty. Changmin explained as they crawled through a maintenance tunnel to reach a damaged quantum relay. You can't understand alien technology from behind a desk. These systems are alive in ways we're still learning to comprehend. The breakthrough came during their third week together. A cargo ship had suffered a catastrophic drive failure while carrying medical supplies to a colony world. The ship was stranded in deep space, its crew slowly dying from radiation exposure as the damaged quantum core leaked exotic particles. We need to perform emergency repairs, Changmin announced. Studying the distress signal, but the quantum core is so damaged that approaching it would be suicide for anyone without proper training. Taiho watched as Changmin prepared for the rescue mission. The scientist's movements were precise, economical, like a dancer who had performed the same routine 1,000 times. He selected specialized tools that looked more like surgical instruments than engineering. Equipment. Can I help? Taiho asked, surprising himself with the question. Changmin paused, studying his former accuser. It's dangerous work. Captain, the quantum fields could kill you if you make a mistake. Then teach me. Taiho replied. Those people are dying because of technology I don't understand. If I'm going to wear the uniform of a starship captain, I should know how to save lives. For the first time since they had met, Changmin smiled. Very well, but you follow my instructions exactly. No improvisation, no shortcuts in space. Arrogance kills faster than any weapon. As they prepared to board the rescue ship, Taiho realized that his entire understanding of the universe had been transformed. The man he had once dismissed as a simple janitor was about to risk his life to save strangers, armed with knowledge that could reshape the galaxy. And for the first time in his life, Captain Kim Taiho understood what true heroism looked like. Emergency klaxon screamed through Lunar Station as Captain Kim Taiho rushed toward the hangar bay. 3 months of working with Dr. Li Changmin had transformed him from an arrogant pilot into someone who understood the delicate balance of technology that kept humanity alive in the cold depths of space. Now, that knowledge was about to be tested in the most dangerous way possible. Captain Kim, Dr. Li, report to Hangar Bay 7 immediately. The station commander's voice crackled through the intercom. We have a code red emergency in the Kepler system. Taiho found Changmin already suited up in his specialized engineering gear, the same coveralls that had once made Taiho dismiss him as a simple janitor. Now, those coveralls represented something entirely different, the practical uniform of someone who worked miracles with alien technology. What's the situation? Taiho asked. Pulling on his pilot's flight suit. Changman's face was grim as he studied the holographic display, showing the Kepler system. Pirates have attacked the civilian transport ship New Hope. 500 families were on their way to establish a new colony world. The pirates are using stolen military technology, quantum disruptors that can tear apart ships. Hull in seconds. The display showed the horrifying scene. The massive passenger liner drifted helplessly in space, its engines dead and life support failing. Round it, 3 smaller ships circled like wolves, their hulls bristling with weapons that should never have fallen into criminal hands. The pirates are demanding a ransom of 50 million credits. Changmin continued. But even if we pay, they'll never let those families go. They've already killed the transport security team. Taiho felt his blood run cold. 500 families' mothers, fathers, children, all at the mercy of pirates who had no mercy to give. What can we do? By the time a military response reaches them, those people will be dead. We can reach them, Changmin said, pointing to their experimental rescue ship. But we'll need to disable the pirates' weapons without destroying their ships, if we attack directly. They'll kill the hostages. The rescue ship was a prototype that Changmin had been working on for months. It combined human engineering with alien technology in ways that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. Its quantum engines could reach speeds that would make conventional pirate ships look like they were standing still. I have an idea, Changmin said as they boarded the ship, but it's never been tested, and it could kill us all if it goes wrong. Taiho strapped himself into the pilot's seat, his hands moving automatically over controls that had once seemed impossibly complex. 3 months of training with Changmin had taught him to see the ship as a living thing. Its quantum. Tell me what you need, he said simply. As they raced through hyperspace toward the Kepler system, Changmin explained his plan. We need to modify the quantum resonance frequency of our engines to create a pulse that will overload the pirates' weapon systems. But the calculations are incredibly complex. I need someone who understands flight dynamics to help coordinate the changes while we're in combat. Taiho's mind raced as he processed the information. This was exactly the kind of collaboration he had never imagined possible: a pilot and a scientist working together, each bringing their unique skills to solve an impossible problem. They dropped out of hyperspace just as the pirates were preparing to board the civilian transport. Through the view screen, Taiho could see the massive passenger liner listing helplessly, its hull scarred by weapon fire. Emergency lights flickered along its length, and he could imagine the terror of the families trapped inside. 3 pirate ships bearing marked 77. Taiho reported, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. They're using hegemony disruptors, military-grade weapons. I see them, Changmin said from the engineering station, beginning quantum resonance modifications now. I need you to maintain exactly 0.7 parsecs distance from the lead ship while I calibrate the pulse. The next few minutes were the most intense of Taiho's life. While Changmin worked frantically to modify their ship's quantum field, Taiho flew a complex pattern round the pirates, staying close enough for the pulse to work, but far enough to avoid their weapons. The pirate ships fired at them repeatedly, their disruptor beams lighting up space with deadly energy. Almost there, Changmin called out, I need you to match their quantum frequency exactly. When I give the signal, align our field harmonics with theirs. Taiho's hands danced across the controls, feeling the ship respond to his every thought. This was flying at its purest, not just operating a machine, but becoming one with it. The quantum engines hummed with power that could reshape reality itself. Now, Changmin shouted. Taiho triggered the pulse, and space itself seemed to ripple around them. The quantum wave spread outward like a stone dropped in still water, washing over the pirate ships with invisible energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the pirates' weapons went dark. Their disruptors flickered and died. Their shields collapsed, and their engines sputtered to a halt. The 3 ships drifted helplessly, their stolen military technology turned into useless scrap by Changmin's brilliant engineering. Incredible, Taiho breathed. You did it. But Changmin was already moving to the next phase. We need to get those families out of there. The transport's life support won't last much longer. The rescue operation took 6 hours, working together. Taiho and Changmin coordinated the evacuation of 500 terrified but grateful colonists. Children cried in their parents' arms as they were transferred to safety, while elderly grandparents whispered prayers of thanks to the two men who had saved them as the last family boarded the rescue ships. Taiho turned to Changmin. "I owe you an apology, not just for that night at the station, but for everything I assumed about you. I thought I knew what made a person valuable, but I was wrong." Changmin smiled, his face tired but satisfied. "The galaxy is full of different people. Captain, our strength comes from recognizing that talent doesn't wear a uniform. Sometimes the person who can save your life is the one you least expect." The successful rescue made headlines across human space. News networks broadcast the story of how a disgraced pilot and a brilliant scientist had worked together to save 500 lives. The footage of families reuniting with their loved ones brought tears to eyes across the galaxy. Admiral Park Dongwook himself presided over the ceremony honoring their heroism. Changmin was promoted to Chief Technology Integration Officer, a position that would allow him to train the next generation of engineers. Taiho returned to active duty with a new perspective and a recommendation for advanced xenotechnology training. Standing before the assembled crowd, Taiho spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "I learned that a person's worth isn't determined by their job title or appearance. Dr. Li Changmin didn't just save those families, he saved me from my own ignorance." The incident became a turning point for human-alien relations. Other species throughout the galaxy had been watching humanity's expansion with mixture of hope and concern. Would humans repeat the mistakes of other species, allowing prejudice and fear to drive them apart? Or would they find a way to build something better? The answer came in the form of new policies implemented across human space. Cultural sensitivity training became mandatory for all spaces. Discrimination based on appearance or job title was not just forbidden, it was seen as a betrayal of humanity's highest ideals. The Centauri Alliance, watching humanity's growth with interest, offered new trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The Andromedan Council, impressed by humanity's ability to overcome its own prejudices, invited human observers to their most sacred ceremonies. Even the warlike Zephyrians began to see humans as potential allies rather than competitors. 6 months later, Captain Kim Taiho stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Harmony as it approached the Centauri system. This was his first diplomatic mission or assignment that would have been impossible before his transformation. Beside him, Dr. Changmin worked at a scientific station, analyzing the quantum signatures of the alien ships that were escorting them to the Centauri homeworld. "Contact from the Centauri flagship," the communications officer reported. "They're welcoming us to their system." Taiho smiled as he activated the response channel. "This is Captain Kim Taiho of the human vessel Harmony. We're honored by your welcome and look forward to strengthening the bonds between our peoples." As the two ships flew toward the gleaming spires of the Centauri capital, Taiho reflected on the journey that had brought him here. He had started as an arrogant pilot who judged people by their appearance. Now, he was an ambassador for humanity, carrying with him the lesson that had transformed his life. True strength didn't come from assumptions or prejudice. It came from understanding, from recognizing the potential in others, and from having the courage to admit when you were wrong. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but the greatest wonder of all was the capacity for people to change, to grow, and to become better than they had ever imagined possible. As the Harmony docked at the Centauri station, Taiho knew that his real journey was just beginning. The universe was calling, and humanity was ready to answer not as conquerors or colonizers,